2 seconds more. Okay. So thank you everybody to attend our first webinar on dynamic pricing in the golf industry. I'm organized by Priswing. I'm very pleased to welcome three major players in our golf industry that are using dynamic pricing and to discuss with us about this technology. So we have on the stage McCort, who is Director Ops and Strategy from Kemper Sports, so one of the largest management company in the US. We have also Justin Kuehn, so who is a VP of Marketing of Hampton Group, Florida management group, and last but not least, we have Slade, who is CEO of Play Golf Calgary, which owns a golf course in Canada, so around Calgary area. So we will discuss about dynamic pricing with myself and Damien. So we are co-founder of Priswing.com. So we are, which is a company based, as you can hear, maybe with my French accent, in Europe, but also mostly in the US and Canada. Most of our customers are in US and Canada. Damien is coming from the technical side. He is expert in data science and yield management software. And myself, before Priswing, I co-founded bookandgolf.com, which was a booking platform, a third parties leaders in Europe. And there is a third co-founder on the stage now who is the technical, like Damien, side of the company. So happy to have all those people on the board.
Thank you very much, Arnaud. So here's the agenda for today. So first, we'll start with the quick intro on dynamic pricing in golf. So what is it and where we are in the industry. Then we'll go through different steps for you to concretely go from a fixed pricing grid to a fully dynamic pricing strategy. And then we'll move to our discussions with our three guests that Arnaud presented, so Justin, Kevin, and Slade. And at the end, we'll finish by some Q&A. So if you have any questions during the discussions, you can put them in the chat and we will review them throughout the webinar. So first, dynamic pricing in golf. So the first thing we want to say is that it's not really a new concept. The idea of having different prices for the same product, so a round of golf, like 18 holes, is not new at all in the golf industry. And actually variable pricing, so not exactly dynamic, but variable pricing has been there in the golf industry for decades, as you know, with the high and low season pricing, the weekdays versus weekends, the prime time versus twilight. So all those kind of factors that impacted prices. So why all those different prices? Because the reason is simple, because usually demand is higher on a Saturday morning in high season than on a Monday afternoon in low season, typically. So dynamic pricing, actually, it's exactly the same idea, same principles, but in real time. So that, for example, if you have a very busy Monday in February in low season, you can charge the highest price and you are not stuck with your winter weekday pricing. So now let's go more in detail on operationally what could you do to go from a fixed pricing grid to a fully dynamic pricing strategy in different steps that you can implement depending on where you are right now in your current strategy. So the first one, what we call the refined pricing grid. So here it's more if you are currently on a simple weekday, weekend pricing structure, you can go further by first analyzing your historical data and check what are your occupancy rates per day of week, per hour, and also per month to check if your demand is actually matching your current pricing grid. So do you really have a difference in demand between weekday and weekend, low season in high season? And you can adjust a little bit your pricing grid so that it matches your historical data. So in this screenshot, for example, you can see that on Saturday, the demand is very high compared to other day of weeks. So maybe you can have a special pricing for Saturdays. You can see that before 7 a.m. demand is low, so you could have a special early morning pricing. Then you can have different times for your twilights, stuff like that. So you can have a more refined pricing grid than just a simple weekday weekend. So this is the first step. Then second step, so here, imagine you are on a fixed pricing grid, but from time to time, you feel that you should change your prices, that your prices are not right because of the course conditions, because of a very busy week coming. So in those cases, you can manually, of course, change your prices and I would say test and learn. So push 30%, 50% promotion and check how many golfers you gain thanks to this promotion. Or on the opposite, if you have a very busy week, try to increase a little bit your price and check if you have the same number of golfers at the end so that you can charge more. So here, what is good with this manual process is that you can test some different pricing strategy. The only thing is that it can take a lot of time to do all those manual changes for every day throughout the year, of course. So then third step could be what we call the occupancy rate based pricing or the metrics based pricing. So here the idea is to have a relationship between your occupancy rate and your prices, and to define a couple of rules, like if the occupancy rate is above 80%, then increase price by $10. If the occupancy rate is below 10%, decrease by 10, stuff like that. So here, what is good is that prices are adjusted automatically to demand. So it's a big gain of time for you. But a couple of drawbacks here. So first one is that prices are a bit below what you could achieve because you are reacting to your occupancy rate and not anticipating the demand. So at the end, if a Saturday morning slot, for example, is predicted to be full, you don't need to start at a lower price and wait for your occupancy to be at 80% or 90% to start increasing your prices, because it's kind of too late. You don't have a lot of time to sell anymore. So what is better is to be proactive and to anticipate that. And also with this method, you have to set up a lot of parameters. So all the occupancy rate threshold, all the price increments based on those occupancy rates. So a lot of settings that are mostly based on intuition and guess of why 80% and why not 70%, why increase by $10 and not 12 or 15, stuff like that. So many settings could be quite complicated to set up, and also you could do a bit better. So the fourth step, so the best one, what we do, is the forecast-based method. So here the idea is to use your historical data and the current data we have on hand to predict at the end how many golfers will play at a given date on your golf course, based on simple parameters. So the months, the season, the day of week, the number of rounds already booked in the tee sheet, and the weather forecast. So for the next week, for example. Based on all that, you can have an estimation on how many golfers you will have per slot for the future dates, and at the end, adjust your prices accordingly. So, for example, if you know that your afternoon slots are always booked on the same day people are playing, if your occupancy rate is very low 2 days before, it's okay. It's no big deal, because you know people will come later, so you don't need to decrease price. To give you an example, imagine, so today we are Tuesday, October 17th. Imagine your occupancy rate for next Saturday is currently at 20%. Is it good? Is it bad? So we don't know. 20% 4 days before could mean at the end 90%, for example, if most of your golfers are booking last minute, or could mean 30% at the end if they are usually book several weeks in advance. So here the answer is in the historical data, and based on this answer, you can have different pricing recommendations. So here, this is just a screenshot of our application. So this is what we do with Priswing. We try to anticipate and forecast the demand per date, per slot, based on those factors. So the months, seasons, day of week, weather forecast, and current rounds booked, current occupancy rate. For example, on the top right here, you can see number of rounds 87. That's the currently booked round in your T sheet, and at the end 112. That's what you can expect at the end. And based on those forecasts, we recommend the best price to use. Now, one thing very important is if you want to go full dynamic pricing, you are still the captain of your T-sheet and you keep the control at every step. Without you, the machine cannot do its job. So you need to define some floor and ceiling prices that could be per season, per day of week, per hour. You can do some manual modifications of your prices at any given time. So really, you can be on autopilot and have dynamic pricing updated every hour, for example, but you keep the control. You know what the algorithm will do because you set it up correctly at the beginning. And about this part of keeping the control, so maybe here a bit more advanced for people who are already familiar with dynamic pricing, but we have many options here to customize the algorithm to do exactly what you want. We can price up to several years in advance. So we can price all 2024, for example, right now. You can have different strategies between early bookings for people booking a long time in advance versus last minute bookings with different minimum and maximum price per days out. And of course, we can price as many products as you want. If you have many different customer classes like public, senior, resident, wholesale, third party, etc., we can have different price per customer category. And lastly, what's very important, so no matter your strategy, if you are on step 1 or step 4, what's very important is to monitor your KPIs, so key performance indicators, revenue, and mostly revenue, average price, and occupancy rate, and comparisons with previous years to check that your revenue is going up and that your average price is going up as well. So here, a screenshot of typically what you could achieve. For example, an average rate plus 7% and the revenue plus 14%. So the goal is to have both price higher and also have more rounds during low, not busy slots. So to gain more rounds and increase price to at the end increase your revenue of around 10-15%. So now, having said all that, I hope this was useful and clear, and I will let Arnaud lead the discussions with our guests.
Yes, thank you, Damien. And it was important just before starting our panel and our discussion to show you exactly what is dynamic pricing compared to variable pricing or static pricing. I really think that the golf industry is now matured for this kind of technology. The first step was to go on the booking online, and then the second step, in fact, as many industries, is to go on dynamic pricing. But what we try to do on this market is really to adapt this technology used in the airline, in ticketing, etc., but to the golf industry. We are all golfers here, and it's important, and we will discuss about that also, the golfer reaction, etc. But my first question to Kevin, Justin, and Slade is why did you choose first to implement a dynamic pricing strategy? And the second question is, when you have implemented it, Can you talk about the impact? Because what we want to talk at the end of the day is really the impact of the dynamic pricing on your revenue, average price. So, Kevin, maybe you can tell about how, as a revenue manager, also you started as revenue manager. Uh, how did you implement dynamic pricing strategy?
Sure. Well, thanks for inviting me and having me on. Appreciate it, guys. So how did we roll out dynamic pricing at Kemper? So when I first joined, we had a fair amount of courses that were dynamically pricing through the actual T-sheet system. And so in joining and really trying to dig into all of that, I quickly realized that it's very limited in its capabilities, in that, you're really can only build, utilization thresholds, threshold tiers. So I started looking around for solutions and stumbled upon Priswing, and was really impressed with their entire platform. So not only did they have a robust dynamic pricing algorithm that also factored in, all of my historical course data, but also actively looked to forecast, factored in the weather, and of course, factored in the business that I already had on the books. But the other piece that I really liked was the business intelligence and reporting tools. Trying to use the T-sheets for my purposes, and trying to extract utilization and ADR and all the things that I needed as a revenue manager, I thought were a little bit clunky. So I really love the business intelligence dashboards. So rolling it out, I had to find a guinea pig course to kind of serve as the proof of concept. Once I did, the month one results were pretty phenomenal. Month over month, year over year, we saw rounds in revenue increases. ADRs were flexing during my high demand times, and also the rounds were being driven on my lower demand days. So we saw an immediate impact, and upon sharing that month one success story with the rest of the folks here at Kemper Sports, it was a domino effect. We now have the vast majority of our daily fee portfolio using Priswing and dynamically pricing through them, and the impact has been amazing. Strong revenue growth. It's really done everything that we wished and hoped for. So we're very happy so far.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kevin. And I think one goal of dynamic pricing, and I often said that, is really not really to optimize the occupancy rate, but to gain revenue, to optimize revenue. And it's important because at the beginning, when we started in the dynamic pricing area, many golf managers thinks that it can be discounts, stuff like that, but it has nothing to do with discounts. And usually to complete what you say and what we see on most of our clients is that the average price is increasing. So it's important to tell that, Justin, Slade, do you want to add something?
I think, Kevin, we had a very similar instance at Hampton Golf. We needed to find one story to tell across our portfolio, and did very similar to what Kevin at Kemper did. Where we were missing, we had these imprecise, these nebulous strategies when it came to pricing, and they weren't real, not based on data. So we identified this was an enormous revenue opportunity, and frankly was one that we weren't taking advantage of, because we were allowing more of our on-site teams to make these decisions. Not that that's bad by any sense but the concepts behind their pricing were not foundational to advancing their gross rev. So We also needed to find price parity across all of our platforms. So for those that are using resellers, one of the, I think, first bricks in the foundation of this relationship was that their integration into some of the resellers are in place. And we all are, maybe not all, but the majority of us are probably not fans of those resellers, but some of us are dependent on those revenue channels depending on market. And this allowed us to align all of our prices and hopefully take away from the reseller revenue reservations and bring them into our own portfolio and booking engines. So I just have to comment too, the support and the setup, and Kevin and Slade, you probably feel the same thing, was the integration was fantastic, and it allowed for us to focus on the strategies that were necessary on site. And we all know there's no epiphany theory in our business. So we had to train on the why. We had to really drive home the concepts of making good, sound pricing decisions based on real data to our on-site team. So there was buy-in on our on-site level. And Nahom and Arnaud did an exceptional job along with Damien in making sure that our on-site teams were in strategy.
Yes, thank you, Justin. And it's important to, also to say that that with dynamic pricing, it's also business intelligence, channel management. So it's a whole process. Do not hesitate. I talked to the participants of the webinar, and we have some questions already coming in the chat. So do not hesitate. The objective of this webinar is really to discuss together. So I have a question from Evan Morrison. From your portfolio golf course that use dynamic pricing, are you seeing a best practice using it for 100% of their tee sheet, a portion of day seasonal? Just maybe before giving you the answer, my feeling when we started, we have some golf managers that ask them, okay, I want just maybe to do dynamic pricing for just one day or one period. My advice is really to consider dynamic pricing during all the season. In pricing, you can set up, for example, minimum and maximum, some price ranges, so minimum and maximum per period. So, for example, if you want to have a very slow variation, you can set up a floor and ceiling price really closed. So we have solution, but my personal advice, is really to apply dynamic pricing to 100% of your planning. But Justin, Kevin, or Slade, you want to have do you have an idea of that, or do you hesitate at the beginning, maybe when you implemented dynamic pricing, to just select a few periods to apply dynamic pricing, or for you was it clear that you were going to apply to all your planning?
Yeah, I can touch on that, Arnaud. We started with dynamic pricing a number of years ago and failed a couple times. So it's not a silver bullet that's going to solve everyone's problems. It was a bit more manual. We'd go in and right click and change rate on every single tee time. And we had someone doing that every day, all day, and ran into a number of issues with communication and staff training and all the problems that your people are going to have. But, over the years, we worked through it. And once we found your software, the flexibility is something that really needs to be considered, of going in and saying, okay, so many days out, what's your min and what's your max? And then it can change 4 days out, then 3 days out. You can get more aggressive 1 day out. The flexibility was something that brought us to your software. And then obviously working with our point of sale system, which we use Club Profit, it worked seamlessly for that. So we had a bit of a different theory, because the number one that needs to be talked about is you have to have demand to really capitalize on dynamic pricing. So again, it's not going to solve your issues if your tee sheet's empty. You have to have a product that people want to play, and you have to have the service levels, and you have to invest back in and everything, all these things that everyone knows, but you do have to make sure your product's there first. And then this is a maximization tool. For us anyways, we wanted to make sure we weren't just doing dynamic discounting where we're setting this pie in the sky rate and then discounting off it up to the last minute. We really wanted to come up with a method that flipped that script where our loyal customers, how we do it is we have our base rate, or just our rack green fee rate, we call our base rate. Our most loyal regulars and customers can book that 7 days out. And every 7 days out, they can always book that same rate, no matter what. At 6 days out, dynamic kicks in, and dynamic only goes up. We set our minimum at base rate all the time. It never goes down. And what we found is that really gets rid of, I call it the gamification of discounting, where golfers are looking for that best rate. And if I wait one more day, it might go down $2 more. It really takes that out of the conversation where they're saying, okay, well, I better book 6 days out, or it's only going to go up higher or stay the same at worst. So that's really what's worked for us. And to answer your original question, it's just that flexibility gives you the ability to come up with whatever system works for your golf course, because, you can get really down in the weeds with your software and exactly how you want it to work.
Thank you. Yes, thank you very much, Slade. And I remember when we met a few years ago at the NGCOA Canada, we started step by step to move to dynamic pricing. I have Whitney, who is one of our clients on the chat, and it's interesting. The question is interesting because we have on the stage mostly multi-course management groups, different, but for independent golf course, so like Saddleback, Whitney, I think we have. For me, dynamic pricing can apply to all because it depends, in fact, of your clients. We have also we have some courses that are independent, multi-course, mostly urban or touristic. Sometimes we can price several months in advance some price recommendation. In this case, we do not forecast based on the weather forecast, but on historical data mostly, which is a key part of dynamic pricing. It's a historical data, and you talked about that, Kevin, at the beginning, but based on the business intelligence, it's really key in dynamic pricing because it's using data in the past are key to make forecasting. And that's a big difference between a solution like us compared to a simple matrix where you have where you apply just a discount based on a future occupancy rate.
We have also other questions, Arno, in the questions tab. Yeah, from Jim, for example. So not all reservations are made online. How do Pro Shop employees quote price when booking live or by telephone? So I think very good question that everyone asks when they start about using dynamic pricing. So I can answer partly for that. So it depends on the type of software you are using, but most of the time we can push the prices to your T-sheet. So your Pro Shop employees see the prices next to the tee time when they book a new reservation, and the price is stored within the reservation. So if they make a payment later when they arrive just before playing, they will pay the price they had when they booked. So exactly like if they booked online. And so same thing by telephone. Yeah, you can tell them the prices that you see on the T-sheet by telephone, and when you book the reservation, the price is stored. So what we do, I think, with almost all of the courses using Priswing is we send the prices both online on the booking engine of the course and in your T-sheet, so you can have the same price everywhere, and you don't have to do some manual stuff to adjust the price when you take a reservation. And I don't know if you want to complete this.
I just comment that your staff training is critical when it comes to those phone reservations. And optimally, you want to get your online reservations at 100%, but that's some people might not be there. We're not there yet, but that system and that script for the phone reservation with your Pro Shop staff is critical to avoid future miscommunication. Also, utilizing your software program so they're getting emailed confirmation with the rate that they booked at. just every point along the way, making sure that they know exactly what rate they're booking to avoid any problems at the till when they're coming to check in.
Yeah, that's really important, and that was of my question during because we have many questions at the beginning during the implementation of a day-to-day operation. What was the reaction of your staff, of course, but also of your golfers? It's because I know that sometimes sometimes it's more coming from golf managers. They fear about the reaction of the golfers. But how was your experience about the reaction of your staff and also of the golfers?
When we baited, we went in with big ears. We wanted to know what was going to happen from both the consumer side and our on-site team. Quickly, the on-site team habituated to what we were expecting. They embraced what they were asked to do, and mostly because that's result. So the equation was there. The consumer, and we had purposefully tested in Southwest Florida. So the consumer there is pretty much stuck in their way on how they're going to buy. Their buyer profile is well, it's hard to move that customer, I guess, is my point. They came around the corner within 60 days. Those that were still a little bit antiquated in how they purchase, but it was not a long, I had purposefully, again, went to that market just thinking that this was going to be the one that was going to cause us the most problem. And it was, well, it was a lot better than I expected. I guess I could finish that with.
And about the communication with the golfers, do you have some tips to share? For example, did you put something on your website to explain about dynamic pricing, or was your staff trained to answer some very specific concerns from golfers?
So all the above, and I'm just going to echo Slade's point. I think it's hyper important that our on-site teams are aware of what the customer buying behavior is in that specific market. We did banner our online booking engine for the first, I think it was 60 days. Now I'm going back a ways now. Just sharing that this is a new pricing strategy. Fortunately, in most markets, at least the markets that we play in, this is an accepted pricing strategy now, more certainly than it was 6 years ago when I think we got kicked off. And our on-site teams are trained with script, just as Slade was pointing out, to ask what their expectations are in price, because our prices will vary based on day part. And important to pay reference that each customer profile is going to have an expectation of a certain price. And if we are having a significantly varying pricing based on day part, based on time frame, we're going to try to find that person an opportunity to play the golf course, assuming that their expectations aren't too far to line.
Yes, thank you. And I think to complete, we have seen that we have some golfers that are more time sensitive and others that are more price sensitive. And the objective also of dynamic pricing is, of course, increase revenue, but you will increase revenue if you have golfers playing all the time. And the key objective also is the distribution of golfers on all the time slot. And usually when I start a discussion, very often we have some golf courses that say, "Oh, I don't need dynamic pricing because I'm full." And my question always is, okay, what is your occupancy rate? And many often, especially independent course, they do not have a revenue manager. They do not know by heart their occupancy rate like a hotel golf manager can know by heart. And so it's really key to go in details, and that's exactly what dynamic pricing is doing, going in details and make price recommendation slot by slot. after we are in the golf industry. So I think regarding the golfer reaction to a price changing, we change the price, for example, with Priswing every 2 hours usually, because we do not think we are not in the airline industry where you see the price changing when you are buying your tickets. So it's we tried since the beginning to adapt a technology that is working, but to the golf golf course needs, but also to adapt it to the reaction of the golfers, and that they need to understand that at the end of the day they can gain more. It's a win-win for golfers on the golf course.
We have another question
Yeah.
from Jason about golf simulators. So they're adding indoor golf simulators at 2 of their courses. And do we have facilities using dynamic pricing for simulators? So not yet, but actually it could work exactly the same as with a regular T-sheet, because at the end, you have kind of a T-sheet for the simulator, and well, what the software sees, it doesn't see if it's a golf course or a bay in a simulator. So the technology could work exactly the same with minimum, maximum prices per day parts, day of weeks, etc., and increase prices based on the demand. So yeah, we could it could work exactly like it's working for regular T-sheets. And then we have Brian.
Yep.
Please discuss rate break philosophy with dynamic pricing. Do you still see big rate breaks from one interval to another, or are you all smoothing price? So I can answer for the pricing part. So we can you can define the day parts you want within our system. So you can, if you don't want to have prices changing every hour, you can have day parts of like 2 hours, 3 hours, only a morning day part, and then afternoon or stuff like that. And you decide the minimum and max per day part. So you can decide, you can make it so that you don't have many variation between one interval to the other. I think the default setting that we see is day parts of 1 hour. So every 1 hour, every hour the price changes. And unless there is a big difference in occupancy rate from 1 hour to the other, prices will be pretty similar. I don't know if someone wants to comment on that, on the intervals you're using.
I can largely echo what you said. So when I go in and help the teams build out their pricing strategies, I am very cognizant of those big jumps. So I try to, like you said, smooth things over. So there's not, at 12:50 p.m. it goes from 80, and then 1 o'clock it drops down to 50. I think that $30 jump, as an example, would obviously cause the golfer to cheap the booker time. So I typically like to go in and make sure that there's transition day parts, just to ensure that from one day part into another, there's not a drastic price move. So we are coaching our team to be cognizant of that.
Thank you. We have another question from Aaron. Do you see limitation in Priswing, but also dynamic pricing in general, I would say, or future developments that you would like to set up? What can be the next step? And usually dynamic pricing is a step-to-step process. Do you see some evolution that you would like globally on the tool?
I can just answer quick that we don't have any deficiency with pricing. It does everything we need it to do. It can be as simple in the setup or as complex as you want. We use it for 9-hole par 3 course where we bounce it up $1 up to $100 property where we can lift that green fee by $25. So yeah, if you see any limitations, what I found is there's ways to do the setup. You just might not be aware of them yet. So just reach out for some training, and you can overcome those issues.
And maybe to complete, I don't know if all the attendees knows, but our technology, we are interfaced with a booking engine and POS. So all the POS, so Club Profit, for Lightspeed, EasyLinks, we are interfaced with them. So they are partners. Sometimes they have something, but it's not really dynamic pricing. That is why we partner with them, because I think we are at a different level of the technology. But so one thing to know is that the setup is really smooth, and I say that because we have many cores with in place, and that's in fact one thing. You do not have to change your booking engine, for example. So it's really a system. We are a backend system, so we push price directly. So on the website for online bookings, I've seen another question, but we can send price also at the desk. So for walking, for calling reservation, and we can send price also on third parties. So through the POS system. So it's so usually, and we have experience at the beginning. To be honest, it was quite complicated because it's interface to be live, and our system dynamic pricing must be live. It's not a request system. When we are live, and now it's really smooth. I think the onboarding process. I don't know if you want to complete about that, but for us, it's really important to say, and I always say that we have a complex technology, but it's complex behind the scene, but usually really easy to use. Even of course, if we are here to help, to train, but dynamic pricing also, we are talking about sometimes machine learning. It's also to test and learn. And the machine does that. The Golf Manager does that. So we can test and learn, try to increase price depending on the days out, etc. So it's not a setup, and you do not have anything to do. It's a setup, and then you have to monitor, in fact, the results. I don't know if you want to add something about that, but I think
we have another also interesting question. Maybe we can move to this one on the online payments. So I know if it's the same for the three of us, but I think that's interesting. Do you require payments for online tea times at the time of booking or not? And if not, do you had any problems with bookings at the lower price, for example, 7 days out, then not showing up? And how would the system handle last minute cancellations? So if someone wants to respond about the online prepayment
part. I can jump in just for a moment. So we require a deposit, not full payment. So we use that as a way to almost mechanize the fact that they're going to be attending their tea time. It is refundable if they cancel within a certain amount of time. So that's number one. And the second part of that question is, do we see customers canceling and then rebooking? No. The way that we've set up our system, the majority of our properties is that we're going to lead into time of booking depending on season. Slade brought this point up earlier, setting a standard rate and then it increasing to day of play. Assuming that you're not in an off-season period, a shoulder period, you're going to find that the pricing as volume, as utilization picks up, that your rate's going to pick up also. So no, we don't experience that a lot at all.
Slade, Kevin, do you want to add something? Because I think it's really it's an interesting question.
We went full payment 3 years ago, I guess, with COVID. Lowering touch points and whatnot at the time was what the purpose was, and we kept it for a number of years, and it did phenomenal things for no shows and short shows for us and whatnot. What ended us we changed it to a 25% deposit, and really the only reason is golfers were getting a little tired of paying for their full foursome and then trying to collect from their buddies, so they would come in on the day of ask for a refund for the other 3, and then those 3 people would pay individually, and we end up getting double hit on credit card charges. Went through the roof in Canada here, so we would pay the credit card fee on the original, and then we would refund, and then we get hit with a credit card fee again. So just one of those little details when you're going through these things, you just kind of have to work through these issues one after another. But we settled on a 25% deposit, which basically is one person. So the person who booked the tea time, his green fees paid for. The other 3 pay when they arrive, which I think was critical to dynamic pricing as well, because 1, it pushes them online to book their time. 2, they see what the rate is because they're paying. They're a lot more aware of crossing T's and dotting I's when they're confirming and finalizing that tea time and getting that email confirmation on the exact rate that they agreed to pay. So that'll work really well at 25%. We do that through Club Profit, and it's a very easy process to set up with them, and it works well. As far as cancellations, we don't see that much at all. If I guess the question is, if you see a lower rate, or they're canceling the higher rate and booking the lower rate. If they do end up doing that, all that's going to do is open up in a more demand time, which dynamic pricing might kick in more and make it even higher than what they originally booked at. So it has its way of working itself out if people try to game the system like that.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have, Damien? I'm not
Yes,
sure.
we have another
question
question on forecasting. Yeah. So how are we weighing out outlier years like the COVID period and the change in demand, and what is look back period of historical demand? So typically we look at the past 2 years of data, which usually is enough to have a good idea of the demand that we can expect. And the way it works is we look for similar days in the past in terms of bookings already made and booking rates. So how far in advance people book? Are they booking 1 day before, 2 days before, etc.? And so it kind of automatically exclude the very high demand days if you have a regular booking rate for this Saturday, for example. So it kind of automatically look for similar days that have the similar pace of bookings, similar number of rounds, X days before the tea time, and so it kind of automatically, for example, if you have a tournament or if you are closed for a given period, those dates will be automatically excluded because we'll see that their bookings are not what we see for this Saturday, for example. Yeah. And then the look back period. Yeah, now if you want to.
Yeah, just to add to that, so it is based on pattern similarity. So we look at similar days in the past, and as Damien just said, we usually look at 2 years in the past. But for example, when we were in 2022, our algorithm would jump back to 2019 because 2020, 2021 were special years. So it's adaptive. It's not just plainly the two past years. It will really look at all the historical data we have. The more data we have, the better it is, of course. But there's no point in looking at data in 2010, for example, when we're in 2023. And then it screens all of these days in the past and then picks the 15 best or 20 best days that look like next Saturday. And then based on those, we have a demand forecast plus the bookings on hand, which tell us where we are in that demand curve.
And actually, we have another technical question as well from Brian. Are you prescribing optimal pricing? Are you performing sensitivity analysis on the historical data? So actually, yes, we have a specific view in our business intelligence modules about price elasticity, where we look at the impact of price variation on your historical data. So if you to check, what is your price elasticity? At which price do you see a peak in demand when you start to lower the pricing? Or on the opposite, when do you see the demand drops when the price is too high? So we analyze this elasticity, and then we prescribe an optimal price, but in between the minimum and max that is set up by the manager. So we take into account the input of the golf manager that knows his course, the course conditions, the market, etc. And then we recommend the optimal price in between those.
Yeah, and just to add one more thing to that is that we look at the demand for each customer segment, and customer segments have different price elasticities. The public players or the daily green fee players have a different elasticity compared to the senior rates, for example. So it's important to distinguish those. Members will behave differently as well. So when we dynamically price a given customer segment, we look at the demand for that segment, but you also, of course, at the total demand and the other demand, because rounds played by members will impact the rounds played by other types of players as well.
Yeah. And question to complete to our guest, a question from Darren: how does the system accommodate for variable rates offering for a demographic like senior or junior? Do you apply dynamic pricing to different customer class?
So we started to do some of that initially. As we were starting to roll this out, we were really just focusing on the public player segment. But then as we got more comfortable, we did start to fold in resident player segments, senior player segments. And the way that you can do that in Priswing is what they call a derived product, in that it flows off of the public dynamic structure, and you can set it up to be X percentage less the public dynamic. So if your resident rates are entitled to, I don't know, a 10% discount on rates, then it'll be 10% off of the public dynamic. Or if you want to detach it and do a completely different strategy for those other player segments, we can build one entirely separate and have its own pricing structure outside of the public. So there's a lot of different things that we can do, and we have started introducing dynamic to a lot other player segments.
Thank you, Kevin. And,
I think we have a question for Slade from Matt about, Slade, you said that you have the same price until 6 days out. And the question is, what if the prime times are filled before the dynamic pricing can kick in?
Yeah, that's just how we chose to do it. We always had a 7-day out public policy. So just being sensitive to our loyal customers, because, they play week after week and they didn't want to pay $90 one week and $117 the next week. So we just want to give them an opportunity to book. So it's more of a thank you. Like, okay, if you book 7 days out, you can have that same base rate. So we definitely can fill up on busy times after that point. So there isn't any dynamic that kicks in. That rarely happens. If that happens, we can raise our base rate to whatever we want, and we could also change that booking window down the road if we want. That's what just seems to be working for us right now. I guess the point of the flexibility of the system allows you to do anything you want. You can book 14 days out. You can have it go up. You can have it to go down, up 20, down 10, whatever you want. Endless options. So we dialed it in like that for us, and it works well for our situation where we're at.
Thank you. And maybe just one last question, because we only have 2 minutes left. So do you recommend using the derived product tool or separating additional inventory and relying on the individual customer segment elasticity? Very good technical question. So if you use derived products, I think it's easier for the setup, because you only have to set up your minimum and max for the public rate, and then all the other rates are moving with your public rate with some percentage discounts or dollar amounts differences. So I think it's easier to manage. So I would recommend using that, I think. But if you have very specific different player types that you want to price completely independently, then you can have two products that are completely separate and with their own minimum and maximum per product. If you don't want to have a relationship between both products, I would recommend to do that. But the derived product thing is easier to manage, and at the end, you don't want to have too many settings to input. Otherwise, it's getting too complicated.
Thank you, Damien. Before I would like first, because time is coming, I would like to thank you, the three guests, Kevin, Slade, Justin. Do you have something to add, a specific tips or a conclusion? You can share something that we did not discuss, because I think we need hours to discuss about dynamic pricing. But do you want to share something?
I just throw out there, because everybody kind of wants to know the impact, but our green fee average has gone up 30% across the board at 4 different golf courses in the last 3 years. A lot of that with the COVID bump, obviously, a number of factors, events returning, all that kind of stuff. But, a big reason for that is dynamic pricing. So if you want to know what the impact can be, we had our green fee average drop pre-COVID for almost 10 years straight. We saw a 30% jump in the last 3, and we're back to, where we should be given, inflation and whatnot. So it works. It really does.
I completely agree with Slade, and I would say I'm a sucker for good data. And it is hard, as we all know, especially because I think we work in 6 different point of sale. Maybe it's 7 now. To become a master of 7 point of sales would take me a career and a half. Being able to dig in, get smart, and really understand how people are buying our product and how we can then enhance value to make sure that they are becoming a heavy user of our product is all right in the data. So the business intelligence, I got to applaud you guys, Arnaud and Nahom and Damien. You guys built a really easy to execute, thank God for a boy from the South, to get some really good business intelligence out of one tool, not having to go to 6. For all those, either your individual course operator or your multi-course operator, the way in which you can draw intelligence from the product it's game changing.
Thank you very much, Justin.
Just to echo on Justin's comments on the business intelligence, dynamic pricing and obviously the revenue impact aside, I know the operators really like the business intelligence suite. I think it enables them, real-time insights into what's happening in their business. They can see right on the main dashboard, the impact of the weather and how that corresponds to their rounds and revenue. It helps with month-end reporting and obviously budgeting for the next year, because we can go back and see, okay, rounds were down in April. Why? We can see, we got 3 inches of rain in April. So just arming our operators to be stronger operators and more in tune with their business has been a game changer for us. I can't compliment the business intelligence capabilities enough.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to both, to everybody, the attendee. And it was great to talk with you about dynamic pricing. Do not hesitate if we have questions. You see our email address. And really thank you, Justin, Slade, and Kevin, to participate to this webinar. And have a great day to everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Everyone.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Have a good one.